It's absolutely crucial for communities to get involved in policy and the laws that are impacting them. We have a part-time legislature that only runs for 45 days during the general session. In that time, usually around 1,500 bills are considered and proposed. And at the end of the session, we have about 500 new laws that go into effect. So those are laws that are going to impact all of our lives. Our 2023 YWCA Utah policy priorities are racial and gender equity, affordable housing, childcare and early childhood education, domestic and sexual violence, and perinatal and children's mental health. We focus on these priorities because, one, our mission is to eliminate racism and empower women, so the racial and gender equity piece is really important. But then we are also an organization that provides safety and security through our domestic violence crisis shelter.
Most of my bills are related to children and moms, because if a kiddo is not okay, it's very hard for parents to feel good when their children are not healthy, when they're not succeeding in school. So I have a maternal health doula bill that is, for one, it will actually address the reimbursement rate at Medicaid for doulas and their services, and which I'm very excited. Doulas are like the new thing when it comes nationally. I mean, it's a trend to recognize some of those services that seriously, with our shortage of physicians, is hard. So doulas, I have covering all kiddos. This has been a bill I worked for years. We can't say we care about children when we don't even give them basic access to health care.
So there are a lot of bills that we are following this legislative session, and there are a couple that we're working really closely on. So one of the first is domestic violence lease termination, and that will improve our current statute that we have that allows survivors of domestic violence to break their lease when they need to flee for safety. I've worked in the domestic violence field for around 2 decades, and I never before have seen this many people acknowledge domestic violence, acknowledge that it's an issue in our communities, and then acknowledge the organizations that are serving the people and families who are experiencing intimate partner violence, and that we need funding to be able to keep our doors open. We run 24/7. We have advocates here. Anytime somebody is reaching out for help, if we do get the funding request, it will mean so much for our organization and other domestic violence service providers.
Our childcare professionals make less than fast food restaurant professionals, right? So workers. So it's heartbreaking when you think that our averaging pay for those mostly women and mostly women of color, about 87% of them, happen to be between $10 and $11 an hour. That is just wrong, and that really sends the wrong message about how much we want to invest on the welfare of our children.
We were in a meeting room at the Capitol, and it just dawned on me at that moment that every single person in that room was Latino or Latina. And it was a really special moment for me because our Utah legislature is not very diverse. And although Utah's diverse communities are continuing to grow, we often don't see that representation.
One of the key issues here in our state is representation. So we are at, I think, 24% representation of women in our legislature. That's up from 14% in 2011. Women make up 51% of the population. So as much as I'm thankful to see it moving in the right direction, it's still a concern when the laws that are being made about our bodies are being made by other people.
The impact that we're able to make in people's lives is so important, but it also gives hope. We have been around as the oldest and largest domestic violence shelter since the 70s. And despite our best efforts, domestic violence is still happening. And there's no shortage of reminders of families that are experiencing this, of murder, suicides, and it can become really depressing and hopeless. But I think when you can work with different communities, work with legislators on changes to make it better for folks in the future, it gives a lot of hope.